what I am really excited about is AI not as like an assistant waiting for the human to provide instruction, but AI as like an expert partner where it is thinking, it's strategizing, it's understanding data, it's researching, and it's proactively suggesting things to me. AI is going to go from being a cool toy to being something really deeply useful.
Welcome to Platform Builders, the podcast for leaders in software development to talk about the future of SaaS. I'm your host, Christine Spang, CEO of Nylas, and I'm here with my co-host, Isaac Nassimi, our head of product. Each week, we'll be interviewing different builders to discuss the magic of software development. Platform Builders is brought to you by HeavyBit, the leading investor in developer startups. For more information, visit heavybit.com. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, send us a DM on LinkedIn. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we have with us a really special guest, Justin Belobaba, who is the CEO at Nowsite. The inspiration for bringing Justin onto the show today was really a conversation that he and I and some other folks were having recently, where he was sharing the vision behind Nowsite and how it really utilizes sort of cutting edge AI techniques and sort of features in order to make Nowsite, which is an app, a platform, a tool that allows creators to build their businesses. And it's just super exciting to see his vision for how the tech that we have available today is something that can really bring user experiences to these people that really work for them in a way that wasn't possible before. And I think he's got just a really exciting and inspiring vision for what the future of all types of CRM apps look like. So welcome to the show, Justin. It's really great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we kind of launch into the businessy stuff, I want to just learn a little bit more about yourself. Tell us a little about yourself, where you're from. How did you get into building software? And I'm really curious to hear just about kind of what was the magic unlock moment for you? Like, when did you really see the magical power of software, and how did that ignite your path?
So yeah, it's a great question. I remember literally the moment that happened, and it was like 2 a.m. in sophomore year at in college. I'm from Toronto originally, living in London today. My family and I, we kind of escaped the COVID lockdowns of Canada
Much,
a couple
much
years.
sunnier London, you know?
Oh, it's yeah. Love it. But yeah, it's been 20 years of building software companies. Started my first one in college, sophomore year at Harvard. And up until this one very kind of poignant moment, I was absolutely on a track to, Wall Street, trading, investment banking, just like, a lot of my friends went on to do. And it was like 2001, 2000, maybe 2002. And anyway, it was 2 a.m. We were playing, a friend of mine, we were playing pool. And he just kind of blurted out, why don't we just start a tech company? And it was, .com boom, and it was all new and it was all exciting. And it was an important moment because up until that point, the thought had never crossed my mind, like at all.
What were you majoring in college?
Economics,
Yeah.
and
Not computer science.
no, uh, you know, going to New York for the summer for the Goldman Sachs internship, and the thought had never occurred to me, and it was like lightning. It was that moment, and I'll never forget, because it is absolutely true that in that moment it was like I had this epiphany of like, oh my God, yes, this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Did your friend tell you how he got the idea?
No, no,
I was just
no.
like,
It was just dumb luck.
from a
Um,
dream.
and the thing that, and I think the reason why it was so, like such a profound kind of realization for me was, I was interested in it. Like, we were all, we were following like all these companies that were kind of blowing up at the time, but I never thought of it as something that I would be interested in, or that I could do. But what I love about it, having still to this day never written a line of code, but having started now four tech companies, sold three, and now I'm on my fourth. What I love about it is just the scalability of problem solving, right? Like if you can identify a problem and use your imagination and your creativity to solve that problem in like a simple, elegant way, you can immediately have this massive global impact and really like have done well, you can impact millions of people with, you know, a solution to a problem that just makes their life better in some shape or form. And like that is just such a incredibly, intoxicating and wonderful idea for me, right? That if you can just, think hard enough and learn enough about your customer and love your customer enough, and you can, you can create something that can help millions of people, like, and that you can push that solution out in an instant. Like, where else can you do that? I don't know where else, you can have that kind of, massive impact. So it all kind of came together for me in that, kind of drunken 2 a.m. epiphany. And that's what I've been doing for the last, 20 years or so.
That's crazy that it just it's sometimes I find it amazing just like how the smallest things in life will like set you on your direction and on your path, and like maybe it wasn't something that like seemed like it should be super profound or important, but when you look back, it's like, well, that's where it all started. It's also cool for me to hear that like just the the leverage of software was something that was like really obvious to you as someone who like wasn't coming at it from the technical side of things. Just sort of like being there while there was like a lot of stuff happening in the tech world. What was it really like during the dot com boom, by the way? Like, did it seem like just like that was where all the action was happening?
Yeah, it seemed like it. And there was, yeah, I happened to
Did you
be.
see a lot of people from your college go and get into the crazy,
Yeah.
growing companies at
So
the time?
I was just kind of bizarrely surrounded by these really neat stories that were happening. A little bit. I was in like sort of like a frat at Harvard. They're called Final Clubs, and I was in one called the Phoenix, and a guy who had graduated a couple years earlier had started a company called GovWorks, and there was this incredible documentary that was made about it called Startup.com, and it kind of follows the story of this company from nothing to raising, I don't remember if it was 50 or 100 million, and back to nothing. uh, so there was that just amazing story on one hand. um, a couple years, or actually the year after I graduated, if you've seen the movie The Social Network, that Eduardo was in the Phoenix Club as well. So I don't know. I was just kind of everywhere I turned, there were just these neat stories that were bubbling up in and around that time, and I don't know. I was arrogant enough to think, why not me? Like, why couldn't I just go out and try to make a mark and do something cool, right? Something, maybe a little bit more um, fulfilling than finance, right? And
Mhm.
that's, that again, like one of my favorite things about starting software companies is, you know, you are not on the sidelines, right? You are, to to quote, Teddy Roosevelt, you are like the man in the arena. right? Like you are, you know, living and dying, every single day, this roller coaster of, incredible highs and terrible lows every day. And I love that. Like I love being in the game, like unequivocally being in it, and winning and losing and fighting every day as an entrepreneur. And I can't imagine my life any other way. Like I can't, in in no way do I feel uh, like I made a bad choice, right? Like not getting into law or finance or venture capital. I've not one shred of regret because I haven't really worked a single day, right? I've never checked the clock and thought anything remotely like, oh my God, is it only 2 o'clock? I've never had that. I've never had that experience in my life, right? 20 years later. And I love it even more now than I did back then. Because at least now I feel like at least, I know what I'm doing kind of, right? Like we never really do, but I feel like 20 years later, I feel like I'm getting, kind of okay at this. Um, and it's more fun than ever.
I've got some questions about so you've been through this quite a few times, right? You're on your fourth successful company. I mean, now that site is incredible. You've been through these kind of cycles, and YC calls it often like the trough of disillusionment, right? Where you start something, it's incredibly fun, it's very engaging, and then expectation doesn't match reality, and you kind of have this like, oh, period. And slowly it kind of comes back. And it sounds like for whatever reason, maybe you've had that and you're maybe looking at it through rose colored glasses, or if you really never checked the clock, how have you gotten through that trough of disillusionment, if that's even happened on your end ever?
It definitely happens, right? And I don't know if it's daily or monthly or yearly when I go through that, right? But
Okay.
but of course, I think every entrepreneur, well, I don't know, at least the ones I think that are being honest, have those private moments of like serious doubts, right?
Yeah.
Um, I certainly do. I also think that I am irrationally optimistic, and I think that like a lot of founders just are that way. And I think that that's in some ways a prerequisite for starting a tech company. Like there's nothing rational about it, right? Like, if you wanted to kind of like secure a solid income, there's a lot better ways to do it, right? There's a lot more like reliable, predictable ways to, have a very nice lifestyle. So you have to be a little bit nuts, I think, to start a tech company. And I'm not talking about like, they always quote like these stats of like, 60, 70% of small businesses fail and blah, 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 blah. I don't buy that because they're talking about like traditional small businesses, right? Like the chance of like a startup really succeeding is way less than 30% or 35%. Like to have like to actually achieve what you guys are trying to achieve, what I'm trying to achieve, like it's very rare. I mean, how many unicorns have there been in the history of the world? Like what, like 2,000,
Mhm.
500 ever? Right? Like
Yeah,
that's crazy. The odds are very low. So you have to be a little bit nuts to do what we do.
and you gotta like
So
grind at it for a really long time. You know, you're
Absolutely.
you're at 8 years on Nowsite. We're at 11 over here at Nylas. It takes time to build something meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't realize that. I mean, the pop culture is like these overnight successes. And I'm not saying that doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
nobody tells you the
Oh my
whole
God.
story.
It's so much work. It's so
Very
hard.
edited. Only this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like
But like, the pop culture, it's just, these, quote, like tech billionaires who hit it, rich overnight. And that's very commonplace. Like that never happens. Right? Like we could probably name a couple of like quote like over like real, nothing's overnight, but like 1 year, unicorns. Like we could probably name what, five, 10, but like everyone else is putting in the time. right? 10 years plus, like yeah,
The phrase I've often heard is the 10-year overnight success,
exactly.
where these people only enter, the fray, as far as like pop culture is concerned, after 10 years of just completely struggling and being nobodies essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, MailChimp, they've been around 20 years,
Wow.
right? And I don't know the exact figures, but they did not have a ton of success in their first 10. Like they were not like, this $8 billion acquisition until very like right at the end. Like the first 10 years was like, slogging away, thankless, hidden from public view. And then, hopefully the hard work pays off.
Yeah. Do you have a go-to person or thing that keeps you going when things are toughest?
Like in business or personally.
I was talking about the startups.
Yeah. Um, there's a lot of people that I admire. Um, mentors that don't know that they're my mentor. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really, I know it may be controversial these days. I really admire Elon. Um, I, I I don't know how he does it, and I don't know how he does it. In the face of so much just incredible criticism constantly every single day. Like that's the guy's a miracle, like an absolute treasure in my opinion. And I know that that's I guess politically charged to say, but yeah, of anybody, I think he's absolutely incredible.
I mean, I think you're right, especially in terms of like electric cars would not be commonplace, right? The electric cars existed as long as cars have existed for the most part, and you really do have to be a special kind of crazy to be like, yep, yep, we're gonna drag the whole entire auto industry kicking and screaming, into this next place.
Well, and then to take on free speech as a side quest
Mm.
on his way to Mars, and to take on the $2 trillion deficit as another side quest, right? Like it's just I mean to me it's just unbelievable. Like it's hard to believe that person exists.
It feels like there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, for me, I feel like that. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. Well,
So I want to shift gears a little bit in, you've gone through, this is your fourth successful business, and most people struggle to get through one in their entrepreneurial journey, right? And there's an execution layer that you clearly have figured out that I think we're going to mine well into in a bit, but I think there's also a picking layer,
Hmm.
right? So for example, Nowsite, you guys chose this, it's not even really a niche anymore. Like this is becoming kind of the mainstream way that people enter, business these days, especially young people, which is, these smaller solopreneurs or, small entrepreneurs, and trying to get the social media presence right for them, right? Give them the ability to have that, competence. How did you choose that? Because that is something that, 5 years ago, I don't think a lot of people saw coming.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. If I, like, so I'll tell you how. I think one of the things that I've learned to do well over the last 20 years is fail. Like I would say I am like really, really good at failing. Like that's probably the thing I'm best at. Okay. And um and I think that like, look, we can all kind of share kind of the Instagram version of ourselves, right? Like the kind of, the spiky highlights that we acted like it that like that's normal, right? And oh yeah, sure, that's my life, right? Like we can all do it, but like my Instagram version would be, oh yeah, I went to Harvard and then I, four successful startups and my life is perfect, and that's bullshit, right? Um, because that ignores the other 99% of the time, which is just coming into the office every day and just failing over and over and over again. right? And that's like my life is basically just like one long failure with like these like weird spikes of success, right? That's the truth. And I think that what I've gotten good at, and I can still get better, but what I've gotten really good at, and I think that this is like really probably the one of the most important skills that you can have in as a a founder is the ability to fail and iterate really quickly, right? Like and I think that like as my career's progressed, I've gotten way faster at learning like what's working, what's not, and I think that that's why probably I'm on a pretty decent overall trajectory. If I look at like my first businesses, I didn't have that skill, that kind of just like I don't know if it kind of like this experience, this like spidey sense. I kind of think of it as, and I think I was like there was a lot of ego, and I actually thought that if an idea was like good and an idea and it was logical, that means that therefore it must work. That's not true, right? Like those are those are necessary but not sufficient states for an idea, right? Like yes, it has to be a good idea, it has to be logical, but that's just a starting point, right? Then the real world happens and you find out all kinds of things, right? Your customers just don't like it for some arbitrary reason that like defies logic in my opinion, or the timing's wrong, or the tech is wrong, or the implementation's wrong, or whatever. But like I when I was starting, I would cling to ideas that did not work for too long, and I wasted a bunch of time and I wasted a bunch of money. And I see that a lot, like working with kind of like young founders. I think that they are not yet good enough at failing, and I don't mean giving up, right? Because that's kind of the paradox of startups, right? It's fail super fast, like, and learn and fix, and also never give up, right? So you have to kind of like balance those two somewhat conflicting ideas, right? Um, but that's what I've learned to do over the last 20 years is I think today, if something, when we launch something or we have an idea or we try something, I can tell really fast if it's right or if it's not right, or if it needs to be tweaked or fixed or thrown out completely. So that's what I think I've learned to do through experience, right? And through kind of, the daily humiliation of being a founder, right? Like you get like really humble, or you should, right? um, because it's humbling, right? It's humbling coming in and failing every day. So to answer, to kind of circle back to the question, I did not, I definitely did not have that vision when I started this company. It was like, I honestly, and Christine, you like, you may be different, but like most of the founders I talk to, they'll probably say that their original vision was different from what they ended up doing.
Yeah, it's true for us as well.
Yeah.
We made a major pivot about 4 years in.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was our like if I told you that Nowsite started, and this is okay, this is true, and it's kind of embarrassing. Okay, it started as a health and beauty and fitness rewards program, and it was called Royalty.com with an IE at the end. Okay, that's how far from the target I was. Like I was like we were not close. Like it was a bad idea. It was an old. By the time we even launched, it was already old and tired and boring. And it was only, I think we learned. Right, we pivoted 1,000 times, and because I think we're willing to fail and willing to learn and willing to adapt, eventually we found our way to like yes, this incredible opportunity, like a truly like for me, I mean the biggest opportunity I've ever seen. Like, I can't believe that there are hundreds of millions of aspiring entrepreneurs, that are completely underserved when it comes to their online marketing. Like, I can't believe that they exist and that no one else is looking at them in a dedicated way. So, but anyway, it was only because we are good at failing that we managed to find this opportunity.
I think it makes a lot of sense. On pivoting though, I think it's something interesting, which is okay, from the business side, we understand a new direction to go. We have a lot of conviction here, whereas before we had conviction somewhere else, and that was shaken based off things we learned. Um, you're non-technical, like you said that yourself. You haven't
Yeah.
written a line of code, and what I'm curious about is how you take these pivots to the team and how you understand how they're going to affect, like, even going down to the code base or the product itself, right? I am pretty sure, just guessing, that you guys still have lines of code or variable names or things in the database that are still called or still named based off like the health and beauty, uh,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do you understand and manage like where that kind of dead wood is adding up and whatnot?
Yeah. So I am, non-technical officially, but I am technical to the sense in the sense that like I know what's possible and I know how things work, right? So I'm as a founder, I have a great CTO, right? Who's like an actual genius. Um, and I think we collaborate very well, right? Like, we can, we are able to have the technical discussion at a level of like, logic and experience and, and I can push him, right? Because I've been 20 years of being around technology and understanding how things work and how long things should take, right? And but the art, but then his job is to you know build the really like the architecture that's going to be right for the future. But yes, we absolutely have some Easter eggs and bizarre artifacts, right, in the code base. We one of our many pivots uh, was selling Bluetooth beacons
Incredible.
inside the app. And so our customer subscriptions are still called beacon orders, even though we haven't done that in about 6 years. Inside our own CRM, they're still beacons for some reason. So yes, that exists. I think that's a pretty normal thing, and we devote a pretty good amount of time to code review and technical debt, and a regular spring cleaning, right? Like I think that like software products are, and there's a million analogies. Okay, I'm gonna pick a fashion one. All right, not that, I mean, I don't know if you can see me, I'm in like a the most basic white t-shirt. I know nothing about fashion. Okay,
That's fashionable right now.
but here's what I know. If all you do is go out and acquire like the latest styles, right, and you don't look at your closet, right, pretty soon your closet's going to be full of all kinds of old dated clothing. And uh, I think that happens in software, right? Like, as I think a lot of founders, myself, I am absolutely guilty of this. I get so excited about going and buying the latest whatever shirt or jeans or watch, that I don't spend enough time cleaning out my closet, right? And so what can happen is my customer sees the closet and doesn't isn't able to see the amazing new uh, you know outfits that they could create, because there's so much old dated crap in there. So it's not the most fun and it's not the most glamorous, but we've tried to adopt a discipline of every like 6 months or so to go back and clean out the closet, right? Like, what's the data saying? What are our customers using? What are they not using? Um, you know, are there things that are kind of nice to haves, but they're not core to the value proposition? What can we get rid of? Like, what are the features that we can just get rid of to allow our customers to focus on the things are that are going to create the most value for them. And again, I think this is a challenge in general. I know it's a challenge for us because we love we love our product and we love building new features, and we're a little bit kind of like feature obsessed, almost to, I'd say, to a fault. Um, so going back and doing that cleanup is like a super important discipline.
So we're now in the age of AI, supposedly.
Mm.
And I see, all of these, consumer applications and especially business applications adding new AI features every single day. And who knows how these are gonna look in 5 years or something like that. But all I know for sure is that whatever is being tried today, 90% of it is going to not work. It's going to get thrown away because we're still figuring out how humans should even interface with this stuff.
Yeah.
And what's your framework going forward of how you try out, for example, these new ways of utilizing AI inside of Nowsite, and recognizing when it is or isn't working, setting the conditions for winning, and cleaning those up as you go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that the big trend that we see right now, and we've been kind of building towards this for the last year, is agentic AI. And I think that like it's more than a trend. Okay, it's to me it's the next major evolution of AI, that is going to take it from being, for a lot of people right now, it's like, it's a toy, right? Like, oh, I went on Chat GPT and I asked it to write a poem. Like, big deal, right? That's not making your life better. For a lot of people, AI is a toy. Um, and that makes sense because it's amazing and it's revolutionary, but it's relatively unsophisticated. Uh, and I would say that's sort of like the AI of 2022 to 2024. I think that the big thing that's going to happen this year, and what I am really excited about, is AI not as like an assistant waiting for the human to provide instruction, but AI as like an expert partner in what any number of different of disciplines, right? Where it is thinking, it's strategizing, it's understanding data, it's researching, and it's proactively suggesting things to me, the dumb human, right? Suggesting what I can do next to whatever, like manage my finances, or book an amazing trip for my family, or learn something new and build my skills, or in our corner of the world, improve my sales and marketing and build my business, right? So, and I think that the transition that we're going to enter now is AI is going to go from being a cool toy to being something really deeply useful. And I'm like, I'm here for it. Like, I am so excited for that. Again, in our corner of the world, that is the best thing that could happen for our customer. Like, my customer is the, we call them hobbypreneur, solopreneur. Um, yeah, they are, a lot of folks that have, a business as a side hustle, right? Gig economy. So like that's who we focus on. And, maybe maybe they're retired, maybe they're a high school teacher and they're doing something on the side. But what is almost universally true is they don't have a professional background in sales and marketing, right? And so while the last couple of years we've given them some incredible tools, like, here's a website that builds itself, here's a social media post that builds itself, like here's amazing tools, there's still this reliance fundamentally on the human to ask the AI, the assistant, to do something useful. And what that requires, and this might be, this might be kind of obvious, but it's a big problem. It requires the human to know what to do. So, and a lot of people who don't have that experience, they don't know how to grow, their social presence. They don't know, they just don't know what to do. So they get stuck, right? What, what I think is the big unlock for these hundreds of millions of aspiring entrepreneurs is an AI expert, an agentic AI that can look at all of the data, right? That can research online, that can see what's working, what's not working, what's working for your audience, what's working for people exactly, with your profile or selling a similar product, and suggest the right activity. Here's exactly what you should do next to have the biggest impact, right? You should do a post about ABC, and I've pre-drafted it for you, and I've researched the latest, trending keywords, and I've already included them. And I've researched the most kind of powerful images, and I've generated one to go with it. So that to me is absolutely revolutionary. And I think we're going to see that everywhere, right? But in our part of the world, in our, as a company, our focus, it's massive, massive.
Well, let me ask. I think that trust is really important from the user standpoint. And when I'm talking about trust, I'm not talking about maybe the way OpenAI AI uses the word trust, where we're trying to make sure that ChatGPT won't tell you how to make a Molotov cocktail. What I'm saying when I say trust is that I, as a user, when I go in and I'm interacting with something on the AI, if my first experience with it is it telling me something blatantly incorrect,
Hmm.
I'm never going to use it again. It will actually, let's say, we'll reset the clock before I'm even willing to use it again. Maybe another year out, right? Um, so, from my perspective, really the concern is hit rate. Like, what percentage of the time does the AI go off the rails? And on your end, how can you ensure that that's a small percentage, and that you're shipping features that you're okay with not getting to see or be in the middle of that interaction between the AI and the person? Um, yeah.
Yeah, we can really minimize risk in the first 30, 60, 90 days, right? By having tighter guardrails on what the types of activities that the AI is allowed to do and suggest for that initial period. Because I agree with you, right? Like it is, this is all of our decision making as humans, right? Is very quick, right? We like to act like we are these, logical, rational beings, but the truth is we're not, right? Like we make decisions very quickly based on emotion, right? And then we use our logic to justify our emotional decision, right? So we know that we need to provide real tangible value inside 2 to 3 minutes, or our customer's gone. Like that's what we've learned. Like their tolerance for getting bored and frustrated is so high. So we need to make sure that we deliver like our value proposition. We need to tangibly deliver it in the first 120 180 seconds. um, that's not that's hard. Then we have to build trust. And so the way that we think about it, at least, is we don't have to deliver what I would consider to be the most mind-blowing 11 out of 10, like knock your socks off capability that we have right away, right? Because there is some, like when you're pushing the envelope like that, yes, there is some risk, right? If we deliver like a solid 8, and then an 8.5, and then a 9, we can build trust and still do things that are absolutely mind-blowing, right, to our customer, right, who is stuck at a 2 or a 3, right? So we think of it like, you have these guardrails that you then over time, allow the AI to have a little bit more independence and be a little bit bolder and make, you know, um, more potentially provocative suggestions, right? Or more aggressive, strategies. So that's how we think about it.
That's phenomenal. That's kind of like actually building a rapport with a person, right? Where you start off with small talk, like
Yeah, yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the weather or something like that, and then once you've got to know each other quite a bit, then you can get into the really intense conversations.
yeah,
But you wouldn't start with those necessarily.
yeah.
I think that's
And
hilarious.
and even, and by the way, this concept, I think it's called temperature, right? Like inside,
Mm.
if you go into like ChatGPT, it has this concept, and I think they call it temperature, where you can kind of like dial up or dial down the how much room, creativity you want to allow that AI to have. So they've thought about that, but like I think what we've done is kind of automate the expansion of that window over time.
I think it makes a lot of sense. As far as uptake is concerned, are you seeing trends or changes there? Because I mean, for example, in Nylas, we have on our documentation for developers, maybe like a year and a half ago, we put in like a chat with the docs, and we saw very low engagement with that. And we have organically seen the percentage of users that engage with that and start typing queries to our documentation
Hmm.
increased like fivefold, just with really no big changes on our end. Have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, like overall, uh, usage of our AI powered features, it continues to increase, right? Like on a per user basis. Um, Also, things are surprising, right? Like there's certain features that we have that, I thought, man, this is going to kill, right? And then there's other features that we have which to me are more just like obvious kind of ho hum features, and it just goes to show like how little I know, right? The ones that I'm most excited about sometimes they kind of bomb, right, with my users, and the ones that I'm kind of least excited about because they're maybe less, less creative, less, at the edge. They make more intuitive sense to the like to my customer, right? They're simpler, and so those are the ones that take off. And so, you know, I don't have like a, I mean, yes, of course, like you can, you know, focus group this, and you can reach out to, trusted users and like, hey, what do you think? But like, I don't know. I'm always kind of disappointed by how little focus groups match reality. And look, for better for worse, my what I strongly prefer is to provide a new feature to 1,000 users and see what they do with it. Like just field test it, and opinions are fine, but usage and data is what really matters to me.
I agree with that, and I think from the focus group side, especially, you're right. If you sit someone down and you're like, "Would you buy this? Would you use this?" Does not necessarily match up with reality at all.
Yeah, yeah, and
Uh,
and look, what's it? The buyers are liars, right? They say that. Our biggest challenge was with our customer finding where they really are in terms of sophistication. Like that was the hardest part. Like if I look at our product evolution, we started with the assumption that these are, fairly sophisticated business owners, so we're going to build these, fairly sophisticated business tools, sales funnels and SMS campaigns and email drip campaigns, and those types of marketing automations. And they would say, yes, we want that, please. And then they wouldn't use them. Or they say, well, now what do I do with this website? Right. So our challenge, and the reason I think we've had more success than others, is we've done a good job of not listening to what they're telling us, but really observing what they are using, and what they are not using, and what they're telling you with their non-usage, right? Which is, this is too complicated, this doesn't work for me. And for us, our business took off about 24 months ago, right? Like 5 years into our overnight success, right? When we finally found the bottom, like when we finally figured out that, oh my gosh, our customers have no idea what they're doing. They can barely log on to Gmail. So our most popular feature, which is not a feature that I'm like I don't think it's that cool. Like I'm not like over the moon about it, but our most popular feature is one button called Surprise Me, and you click it, and the AI generates a post based on its growing knowledge of your interests and your writing style and things like that. That's after 7 years, our most popular feature is like a one-click instant, authentic, original social media post. People, they love it, and it's simple and it's beautiful, but it's not. If you ask me, like, whatever, blindfolded, which of these features is going to be the biggest winner, I never would have thought that.
that kind of reminds me of the "I'm feeling lucky" button that used to
Yeah,
exist on Google.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I never clicked that.
Um, I had a question that was coming to mind about just like building good AI. So, you've talked about how, your vision for how AI is going to work, and, what's resonated most with your users is that the AI should be telling people what they should be doing. And in order to be able to do that kind of thing, these AI tools need to have a lot of context about what else is happening in the system. Like what have you found was like the data that you like need to feed to your product in order to make those tools useful?
Luckily, we have it's hard to believe, right? We're still not a big company, right? We 40, 50,000 paying users, 100 something thousand, total users. I mean, so we're okay, but we're not like huge. Um, as it turns out, in our sector, we've got more data than anybody. Like it is so wide open that, even though we're a drop in the Pacific, we have better data than anyone. Like we have more, and when I say data, I mean top of funnel, right? So from, you know, I don't have I don't have anyone to talk to about my business, to I'm generating leads, to I'm warming up the leads, to they become customers. As it turns out, no one, there's not a single company in the world that has as good data as we do. So that was nice to discover that we had this kind of, this advantage. Um, so, and by the way, I think, I don't know this, of course, but I think that like AI is going to become so good that it's going to be ubiquitous and almost irrelevant because everyone's just going to have amazing AI. Like that, and I don't know if that's 2 years from now or 5 years from now, but like it's going to be so good and it's going to be everywhere that it's not going to be a big differentiator or competitive advantage, right? To In my opinion, the big differentiator is going to be data, right? And so where we have, I mean, albeit it's a small advantage today, but this growing advantage is we have the best data for about our customers, right? And so I mean, we partner with big companies that employ hundreds of thousands or even millions of these hobbypreneurs, right? Like in the world of like direct sales and affiliate marketing, like the numbers are staggering. Like these companies, some of them have, we have literally a partner that has 2 million sales reps. Can you imagine? It's like a country. They have no top of funnel data. No one does, right? So I think our long-term advantage is having more and better data, which will allow us to make better suggestions, right, than any new entrant and deliver better results. And that becomes this like really nice virtuous cycle where the better results we deliver, the more customers we acquire, the better the data we have, the better results we can deliver, and so on. And to me, that's the really big opportunity. It's not to be this, sales and marketing software, like great, that's nice. It is to be the algorithm that optimizes sales activities for hundreds of millions of aspiring entrepreneurs, right? That empowers, hundreds of millions of people to take the best possible action to build their business. And to me, that's a very like that's inspiring. I got all the time in the world, for that, right? Like to have the opportunity to be really like deeply helpful to, you know the small business owner, like the entrepreneur, um, you know, and that's in America, it's in Canada, I'm in the UK where I am, but in the developing world, like oh my gosh, like it's amazing the impact that we can have as they kind of build this middle class, right, in Africa, in South America, and so on. It is so gratifying to see the impact that we can have, but we feel like we're just getting started. So um, data is our long term. advantage, right? And kind of empowering people with that data is how we think we're going to make a big difference.
So you're building up this like proprietary data set at Nowsite that's like the best data for personalizing actions for creators.
Yes.
Is it the same for every creator, or do you have to like further segment it to individuals and
Well,
sort of?
I'll give like look. I'll give you an example of what's possible today. Okay, we have a new feature uh, that we call social to lead. Okay, most people are meeting prospects on social media. So let's say I meet somebody on whatever Facebook. What I can do is as a user, I can screenshot their profile. Just screenshot, right? Because none of these people are ever going to do any data entry in a CRM, right? Like we know that. So take a screenshot, upload it, upload the screenshot to Nowsite. We will um, create the contact in the CRM. We will use the information in the screenshot to then go research your contact online, find their interests, find their hobbies, find their education, find out more contact information, populate all that inside the CRM. We use that data uh, to predict very accurately the personality of the prospect, and then we use that to formulate a step-by-step sales plan to best target that prospect. All of that from a screenshot, right? And we're doing that today. Like we do that today. So, and this is the beginning of what will be possible. But that's already something that our customers are using now.
Where do you think the termination point of that is? What do you think the future of CRMs looks like?
I think the future of CRM is no CRM. Like the way today, the way that I think, okay, that's a little bit glib. Okay, let me tell you what I mean. I think that CRM is the way that we think about it, right? Where it's data entry and data analysis, and I've got 17 prospects in stage one, and I'm moving 12.5% to stage two, which is I send them a proposal. Like that's a very kind of like human, um, unsophisticated approach, right? And it's because we only have a capacity for so much nuance, right? Same thing with like personality analysis, right? Like every model of personality analysis always buckets you into one of like 16 personality types or something. Like we know that that's bullshit, right? But it's a helpful model because we can't handle more nuance. So the best CRM is, in my opinion, one that treats each prospect optimally, right? That looks at everything we know about the prospect, everything that we know about you as a salesperson, all the data we can possibly get our hands on, and the CRM, the AI formulates the best possible plan for that prospect, which might be a little bit different than the best possible plan for this other prospect, right? Like that's my, again, what do I know? That's my opinion. My opinion is that the idea of like blocked off stages is an old idea, and it's going to go away, and it's going to be replaced by a much more nuanced, personalized approach to sales. And I also think that the idea of asking is like, my customer, right? Kind of the hobbypreneur, the volunteer, commission salesperson to use a traditional CRM. That's failed for 50 years, maybe not 50, but it's never succeeded. Maybe it's 40. I don't know. It's never succeeded. The way we deliver our CRM is a chat. Can you imagine? Like a chat. Like our CRM is no CRM. You are chatting with your sales expert AI partner, right? What should I do today? Oh, here are the 10 activities that I recommend, right? Here are your top leads. I've assigned a score to each one. You should reach out to Mary and do this. You should reach out to Steve and do that. And it's all through a chat, right? And soon to be a voice activated conversation, right? And yes, of course, if I want to see my whole pipeline, of course we can show you the pipeline, but the day-to-day experience of like these clunky stages and data entry, I think that's all going to go away.
But all of that is contingent upon having all of the context, though, right? Like, let's say that the AI just has access to your phone calls, or
Hmm.
like like the recordings of your phone calls that you make through your dialer or whatever, but you don't have, some other channel, right? Like the SMSs.
Yes.
Um, I mean, it won't be able to give you good insights, right?
100% agree. 100%, right?
So
So, yeah, the more
yeah,
you put in, the more you get out.
but now this becomes like an org problem and an engineering problem, right? How
Mhm.
do you do so much? How do you connect to so much and tap into so much? How do you
It's
manage
a
that?
work, yeah, no, you're right, and it's a work in progress, right? I mean, this is one thing we love about you guys, right? Nylas. But that no, but really, like that's something that we love, right? And we want to do more of that to automate, the data that is available through email, right? Inside our system, we also enable SMS, so we can, we don't see your personal SMS, but your business SMS we can see, right? So the more we can, you know, the more information we can, helpfully access, right, with your consent, then the more insights we can deliver to you. Absolutely.
So, of that communications pie chart, I always think about of it this way internally, right? All of these different channels and mediums that you have for communication. Do you think you guys are nearing 100% of that communications pie chart?
No, I don't think so. I think that 50%
Okay.
is more realistic. A lot of this happens over social media.
Mm.
Hmm. So, one again, things that are to me not uh, the big kind of like home run, but our customers love. Like our customers love being able to take a screenshot of a conversation that they're having with a prospect over Messenger, over WhatsApp, over Telegram. So today, what they can do is take a screenshot, give it to their AI sales expert, and the AI sales expert will, one, tell them how to reply, tell them what to say to handle that objection to move the sale along, and two, file that screenshot inside that context history, so in the future it can be called upon and automatically remembered, right? So so much of this is like, how do we take work off of the the customer and give that task to the AI expert, right? Which again was not really possible in 23, 24, right? Like, the AI assistant could like tell you stuff, but it wouldn't really do stuff, right? And I think kind of the next year or so is going to be a lot more about AI agents doing things independently, right? Like updating your calendar for you, right? Doing research for you. Like real tasks. We're going to see AI agents doing more and more like real world tasks.
I absolutely agree, and I think it's going to be a fun year.
Totally.
I think it's about time to wrap. But first, we do a section called Picks, where everyone just brings something fun that they found over the last few weeks that they're excited about. It can be anything. It can be a piece of content. It can be an app that you found. It can be a movie. Who cares? Um, and just shares it with the group. Spang, do you have a pick for this week?
Yeah, I do. It's kind of weird though. So I recently got an induction stove installed, and a really cool thing has happened. And this is a little nerdy, but one of the reasons that it's like hard for a lot of people to get induction stoves, even they're way better, they're super clean, they boil water super fast, they're really easy to clean. They're just a better cooking experience. But it's hard for a lot of people to get them because their houses are old and the wiring is just like not good enough, because you need like a high voltage power outlet to put in an induction stove. And so this is funny to me as like somebody who like, started a company that built a nice modern API for connecting to crappy old email APIs. Is that the big innovation that's happened here is that people are now building induction stoves with a built-in battery, like a lithium ion battery, like you would find in like a car. And it's big, it's like 5 kilowatt hours. And this allows you to just install one of these ranges with a normal outlet. And so it's like It's like the API interface for like housing infrastructure. That's just drop in. You got to meet users where they're at. You got to
Yeah.
meet houses where they're at. You got to meet software where it's at. And I just love this stove. And I thought it was going to be like 10 years before I was going to be able to get one because I live in a very old house. And I was like, I'm not going to like rip it down to the studs and like run all new wiring. I got to get like a main panel upgrade. It's complicated and really expensive. So it's made by a company called Copper Home, and it's called the Charlie. And it's like literally a drop in range that you can just replace your gas stove with. Way healthier, way better, recommended.
And the idea is that you'll always finish cooking before the battery runs out, basically.
Yeah, so they only need the high power draw for like a very short amount of time.
Hmm.
And actually the battery's big enough that if you have a power outage, you can cook for like an entire day using just the battery. So it's kind of
That's pretty
cool.
cool. That's
That's
pretty
cool.
cool. All right, my pick is, well, we work at a company that makes things for engineers, so I try and code as much as possible. So I'll always have an engineering focused one. My pick this week is Cursor Rules. This is a new feature that Cursor, which is a code editor that's more AI focused for developers. This is a feature they came out with that lets you kind of basically write this context for the AI of how your code base works. And what they've done is let you kind of break it up into a bunch of different files. And the like AI programming agent will automatically select the correct cursor rules to apply when it's actually running itself as an agent to have context. So you can kind of tell it, hey, if you're looking to add something to the nav bar, it's in this file. This is how we register endpoints, things like that. And this is the best I've seen of an AI actually being able to understand a large code base with this. It's kind of given me a glimpse of the future of not just programming, but just working with AI agents in general. Of sort of having like this meta layer of managing the AI agents. And I think over the past few years we've seen these AIs like improve their coding benchmarks, and it's like, oh, GPT or O3 is the 50th best coder in the world. That's on like these little tiny programming problems that are in like these short little blocks. It's not on these massive code
Yeah.
bases of 500,000 lines of code. And now with cursor rules, I'm starting to see a glimpse of AI being able to take on these monument or small tasks in monumental milieus. And yeah, so if you have an engineering team that you work with, make sure they're using cursor rules. They're badass, and you can get the AI agent to write the cursor rules for you by looking through your code base, which is kind of cool. Um, yeah, that's my pick. Justin,
Love
what do
that.
you got?
What? So I've become a wellness enthusiast over the last year and a half or so, since I've realized apparently I'm not going to live forever. And anyway, I'm into all the things, right? Like I've got you know all the supplements, and I've got all the so basically, if there's an opportunity for me to try something when it comes to wellness and longevity, like I'm in. I actually love this new hydrogen infused kind of water bottle. It is actually here. Have you guys seen this thing? I'm showing the water bottle,
No.
and it infuses like 4.5 parts per million or something into the water, and it's antioxidant, good for inflammation. I've noticed a bit more energy, so I love it.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
crazy. Do you do Brian Johnson's "Don't Die" stuff?
I so
Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't need to die. Maybe
I
you can live forever.
I don't follow like I mean I think he's an interesting dude, um, in
He's interesting.
every sense of the word. I think he may be taking it a little bit far, but power to him. But I do think that there's a lot of information out there about food and wellness, and the food pyramid, and how you know just how wrong so much of what we've been taught uh, about food has been, and how to think about longevity and wellness and the importance of sugar and inflammation, and so it's become a I don't think I'm at the Brian Johnson level. I'm definitely not. Uh, but I find it fascinating. Um, and yeah, this what's it called? Echo Go. It's like, I think it might be the world's most expensive water bottle. So it's not for the faint of heart, but I really do enjoy it. I think it's good.
If for those who can't see, it looks pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie.
I hadn't
If
heard of
you
that one, and I would also consider myself to be a wellness enthusiast. So you taught me something new today, Justin.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much, Justin, for joining us and giving us an hour of your time. And hope everybody enjoyed tuning into the show.
Thanks, everybody. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Justin.
That's it for this episode of Platform Builders. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who'd find it valuable. Platform Builders is brought to you by Nylas, the industry standard for building communication features in SaaS. With just one API, you can integrate with Gmail, Microsoft, IMAP, and 250 other mail and calendar providers in minutes. Plus, Nylas now offers a meeting note taker API to help you capture external meetings, transcriptions, and summaries directly within your product. If you're building a platform and you want to offer the best in-class communications features, check us out at nylas.com. We'll be back soon with another great conversation. Until then, keep building.